to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I'm going out on a limb here. So those of you who have been listening for a long time, lifetime listeners, as I like to call you, know that I've gone through this journey of being able to say the word God and not being ashamed of it, and or embarrassed about it is probably a better word. And to like, I used to just not even want to go there because it's just, I don't know. It's what it was instilled in me. So today I wanted to talk about, no, it's not going to be a religious episode, but I wanted to talk about what thoughts came to mind this morning for my reading. So the reading was Thought for the Day on the Hazelton website. And then I also had a great conversation, I think a couple hours actually, a conversation with my mom on the phone. And we were just talking about life and death and the energy that is the life that is inside us all, and how when somebody passes, I was trying to express to her how I feel like it's just, it never ceases to absolutely fascinate me that there is so much energy inside of us when we're alive, especially like those of us who have this extreme anxiety or any of these other invisible illnesses. You know, everybody's got an immense amount of energy, but it's just it's fascinating to me that we have all of this energy and then it's gone, and our bodies are left. And I'm like, you know, as we scientifically look at energy, energy goes into something. Like energy just doesn't disappear. And for those of you who are the physicists out there, don't correct me, okay? This is just me sharing my opinion about things. But it's like, what I think about is energy doesn't just disappear. It's there's always something left over. It has to go somewhere. And so when I think about us as human beings and I think about somebody passing, I think, where did the energy go? Where did it go? And so many of you know, if you're caught up on my concept of my higher power, it is everything outside of me. So as long as I'm not it, that's all that matters. And so when somebody passes, I have come to terms with and gotten comfortable with imagining that that energy has gone into my concept of my higher power. And it fuels me. It fuels my sobriety. It fuels my healing. It fuels me in a way of countering my depression and my anxiety. Like it is something that is priority in my recovery, in all of my multiple recoveries. That concept of my higher power is what wakes me up in the morning. It's what gives me positivity and inspiration, and like it's everything to me. And so I have found it to be really healing for me to think about somebody passing, that energy goes into the higher power. So I could list off all of these people who used to be in my life that have passed that are in my higher power. And some of them, I won't list them all, but some of them include my father-in-law, my ex-father-in-law, who passed away from esophagus cancer. My the owner of the company that I used to work for before I was medically retired, he passed away from ALS. And my aunt, who also passed away from ALS, a friend of mine that I grew up with and was friends with my whole entire life, and he passed away from our disease, my disease, and the list goes on and on. So that's what I do with my grieving process. And the reading that, so this is what I was talking about, that energy with my mom. I didn't go into the higher power stuff to that extent. But the reading this morning then was talking about that quiet voice inside our heads, not the one that's the self-talk that's telling me that I'm a piece of shit, but the voice underneath it, the voice that knows what the next right thing for me to do is, the voice of my consciousness, the voice of my do-gooder, my strength, the voice that tells me to rest when I need to rest, the voice that tells me to get up and do it anyway, even though I don't want to do it. It's the next right thing voice. And so the reading this morning was talking about how God, that voice is God. Okay, that's what the reading said. I always say this. That's what I heard. And so as I listened to this, I was like, is it? I mean, is that what that is? What is that? So that's what I wanted to talk about. And um, I, for me, like when it's that voice that you want to start exercising and you need to go to the gym, but you don't want to go to the gym. What's the voice that tells you that you need to go? What's the voice that tells you to go? What's the voice that tells you, good job, you went? You know? Um, because that voice is quieter than the voice that tells me all the wrong things. And yesterday I talked about how the self-talk, the voice, I'm talking about a lot of voices. The voice that does the self-talk for me today is a completely different voice than it was when I was drinking. It was drunk. That voice was drunk. It was me drunk, It was the voice that told me the wrong things to do. Yeah, you really do need to go to the bar. Yeah, you really do need to go buy another bottle of wine, even though you've already had two. Yeah, you really do need to stay up until 4, even though you got to get up at 6. That voice. I don't have that voice necessarily anymore. It's quiet, like I don't hear it anymore. I don't hear that voice that is on the other end of the spectrum that drives me to do what I want, when I want, no matter what. I still have that desire. I still have the desire to want what I want, and I want it now. But it doesn't speak to me loudly. It's just there. It's like, oh, there's that character defect. But I know how to talk to it now. Because the other voice, the new one, the sober voice, knows what to say. Like that sober voice has been able to override the drunk voice in my head. And so but there's still yet another voice, okay? And that's still going back to that small, still, quiet voice that tells me everything is okay. You're doing the right thing. Good job. I know life is hard, but but you're strong. Um, you did a lot today. You need to rest. Um, it embraces me even. That small little voice embraces me when I'm sad. Um, that small little voice tells me to do things when I don't feel like I can. Um, and that little voice is patient, like can wait all day for me to try all the wrong things before I do the right thing. Um, that small little voice is patient enough to let me decipher between the voices, and I do sound crazy when I'm talking about this, and that's fine. I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to do that to communicate to you what I'm trying to communicate. So that small little voice waits for me to make a choice about my behavior. That pause that I talk about all the time, the pause is so that I can listen for that voice. I'm looking for it, I'm seeking it. That's what the pause is for. The voice is is if I quiet myself down, physically and mentally, that voice will tell me how to respond to a situation to save me from reacting. Um, I feel like on a normal day that 90% of my self-talk or the voice in my head, 90% of the voice that speaks to me throughout the day tells me things that's probably too much. Maybe not 90%. It depends on the day. If I'm having a good day, then maybe 75% of the voice in my head is telling me things that are unhealthy. Whether it is you should order a pound of candy on Amazon and you'll figure out how to how you'll figure out how to lose weight regardless. Just do it because that's what you want. Or the voice that tells me, um, I know that I need to make dinner tonight, but I just don't feel like it. Because even though those things aren't obviously unhealthy, they are long-term wise unhealthy for me. I have to keep pressing forward. I have to do the next right thing. Even when I'm tired, I have to do the next right thing because my mental health depends on it. And I feel like 75% of the time, I can't hear the next right thing. It is being overridden by the invisible illnesses that I have, whether it's anxiety, depression, my alcoholism, and my disability, really. Um, so it takes me some time to figure out what I'm going to act on. And lately, over the past week, I would say, I have been feeling physically, I feel like my symptoms are heightened, but not to the extent that my cognitive impairment has been heightened. And I haven't really talked to my husband about it, but I find myself, so this is hot off the press. I find myself walking into a room, and I know you've done it before. You say, "Oh, I need to go get some more tissues from the pantry or whatever, a box of tissues from the linen closet." And by the time you get to the linen closet, you're like, why am I here? What am I doing? Well, that has been happening to me multiple times a day, all day long, where I'm thinking that I need to do something. And by the time I get to where I need to go, I'm like, I have no idea why I'm here. And then I'm like, this happened this morning. I needed to get something from the garage, and I walked down to the garage, turned the light on, and I stood in the middle of the garage and I was like, I have no idea why I'm standing here. I have absolutely no idea why I'm standing here. So I was like, I'm not walking all the way back upstairs just to figure out what I went down there for. And so I just stood there and I was like, okay, what was I doing upstairs? I was doing XYZ and I had this in my hand and I came down here and like I have to work through what it was that I was doing. And that happens to me when I'm cooking. It happens to me just all day long, all day long. And it's I why don't I tell my husband? Because I feel like it goes back to that feeling of guilt that I feel this way because I'm doing too much. Um, but I think that my symptoms are changing over time so that sometimes it's a lot of head pain, sometimes it's a lot of eye pain, and sometimes it's a lot of cognitive deficit. And over the past week, I've had a lot of eye pain and head pain, honestly. But that comes and go. I mean, the headache's always there. You guys know that's a guarantee. I've got a headache at all times. But there are times when it just magnifies, and that has happened every day, at least once a day. But this cognitive thing has been really the thing that has been the most obvious to me now. So, what does this have to do with what I was talking about? It has to do with my voice, the voice inside my head, because I have started to realize that I've got a different voice now, another one. No, I'm not crazy. I'm just talking about maybe you can call it, instead of calling it a different voice, you can call it a different mood of that voice, or I don't know what you would call it. But this one is the stroke survivor. This one is the I have all intentions of doing the next right thing, but I can't remember what it was. And that can be frustrating. That can be really frustrating. Um, I've got a lot going on, and I don't recognize that quite often enough, I think. I have other people that tell me that all the time, but most people say, it's either somebody says, you've got a lot going on, why don't you just rest? You know? And then I've got people say, you've got a lot going on. it's amazing. Your strength is amazing. And that strength is that voice, the next right thing voice. That's what that strength is. What is the voice? Is it God? I don't know. I don't know what it is. Um, I want to believe that. Honestly, like when I read the reading this morning and thought for the day, I thought, mm-hmm, that's what I want to believe. I want to believe that that small, still voice in my head is God telling me what to do. And if I quiet down, I can hear it and I can listen to it and I can let it guide me. But this is where I'm going out on a limb. Feel embarrassed to say that. Okay, I'm just being honest, because I think it's important that I share that side of me, that side of me learning how to do this higher power thing. I get uncomfortable. I get really uncomfortable with it because it's not what I th- I never throughout my life had somebody that I talked to about this ever. So why not start with the entire world on the internet? I'm kidding. But I think that it's it's given me a lot of stuff to chew on today. A lot of like I wanted to talk about it out loud to see if I could get comfortable saying it. And I did. I did say it out loud, so that's positive. Um, so that's it. I mean, I think my challenge to you today is, do you hear that small, still voice? And do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know when that voice speaks up that tells you to do the next right thing? Do you know when that voice speaks up and says, everything's okay? Everything's okay. Right this minute, everything is okay. Breathe. Or do you drown out that voice with your own self-talk? You know? So I think it's really, I think, a question of do some self reflection on what does my voice inside my head sound like on a day-to-day basis? What does it sound like when I'm at work? What does it sound like when I'm with my family? Because this voice of mine has been growing up right alongside me for 50 years. And it continues to change shape and sounds different and has a different mood and has different characteristics as I grow and change. So, something to think about today. It's been a nice topic to talk about. So, thanks for showing up for me and for yourself, and I will talk to you tomorrow.